I wasn't positioning myself to work for them. I wasn't doing the work that would attract those clients. So now I'm actually very concentrated on, showing my expertise, showing what I can do, and targeting those specific companies instead of wondering, hey, who's going to see me and who's going to give me a chance. I'm just like, no, I'm going to get in front of these people and make them notice me.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen and creatives? My name is Andy. Welcome back to the Creative Journal podcast. I'm super grateful, excited, and just humbled to be in your guys' AirPods or Bluetooth compatible hearing aids today. So, today's guest, if you're new here, thank you for coming. I know we've had a lot of new listeners ever since the episode with Mr. James Barnard, which you can check out, entry 028. Yeah, that episode went really well. A lot of you guys seem to like James, so duly noted. More guests like James coming on in the future. But today, we have an awesome guest in the similar niche of social media and design, and that is Mr. Michael Mondragon. Michael and I talked a few months ago, and just mind blown and impressed by his career, his wisdom. We connected on LinkedIn for a long time, and just really enjoyed his content on social media, his articles on LinkedIn, how consistent he was, and I really just viewed him as a subject matter expert, as someone that I really wanted to learn from. So a lot of lessons we can learn from Michael today, which I'm excited to share with you guys. But a little bit more about his background. He is a graphic and brand designer on the West Coast in California. He's also an adjunct professor at Chapman University in Orange County, California. He's also a live broadcaster and producer of the Baseball Brew Crew show, which he and his friends run. And he's also the company owner of Mondragon Design for over 16 years. So a lot of lessons from Michael in this episode, which I'm excited to share. Expect to learn, in addition to Michael's story, how to strengthen your own brand versus your client's brand, Michael's fictional dream client, which I was a little bit surprised to hear and might have exposed our age difference a little bit, and how to inject creativity into your existing passions, something that I think is a skill set that Michael does very well, and I think is one of the biggest lessons I've learned from him. So yeah, if you guys are enjoying the show, please leave a like or review, 5-star review or 4-star review. I'm not picky. On whichever platform you're listening to. You guys have no idea how much that means. We put a lot of effort into the show, and we're just grateful to have any listeners you can. And if you guys are getting any kind of value from it, we'd really appreciate it. So if you want to see the show notes for this episode, head over to mmgdesign.net/entry030, and it'll take you to the show notes for this episode, all the links for Michael's career and so forth. And I think that's all of the housekeeping we have to do. So without further ado, please welcome to the Creative Journal podcast, Mr. Michael Mondragon. And that's something I really admire about you. Like, you have these so many different things that you work on and that you're passionate about, and you found ways to use design to enhance them for you, and you've added them to your portfolio and you share about them. And that's something I really admire, because I think that's kind of the pinnacle of creative career, is when you can use your design skills and your passion in design to kind of use it to fuel your other things that you're passionate about. And I know when we get into creativity as a career, it can kind of turn into more doing work for other people. And you found a way to kind of work for yourself and work for things that, and obviously you have the professorship and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I just want to say kudos to you for that, for finding ways to make design enhance other parts of your life. So I really look up to that.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And definitely bring that up in the interview, because like, even though that I've done all these things, like, I'm still at a point where I'm just like, I'm looking for the next phase of it. Like, what is the next? And I'm not looking to wind down at all. So what does that look like? I have a lot. I still have so much more to do. I don't have enough lifetimes to do everything I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that much. So it's I appreciate that so much. And as a young person, I'm so appreciative that you see that, but I'm just like, once you get here, it doesn't end.
Yeah.
It's not, that's the fun part of it.
Yeah. So what are some of your ideas for the next chapter? Like, actually, you know, how about we start from the beginning here, man?
Okay.
I want to, yeah, dude, I have, okay. So I'm on my lunch break. So I got off work right now. I have all the time in the world. So I get off work at 5. So I'm, um, I'm on my lunch break. So I have all the time.
Okay.
So I use my last hour of the day as lunch break. So, um, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's
learn
do it.
about Michael today. Yeah, you're the
Oh,
star of the show
perfect.
today. So,
Phenomenal.
yes, tell me about kind of your creative career, how you got started, and how it led you to where you are now. So, I mean, I know that's a super broad topic, so take as you can be as detailed or in depth as you want. But I just want to learn about you, man. You're the star of the show today, and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name is Michael Mondragon. I run a agency. I won't even call it an agency. It's like it's defined as an agency, but Mondragon Design is me, myself, and I. Um, I've been a graphic designer since 1991, so I'm 3 decades in of graphic design, and one of the things that I just tried to do at the beginning of my career was just basically just do art. And art back in the 90s was much different than it is now. There was no cell phones. There was, you had to take art classes and, to really learn the trade. And I started as a sign painter at a record store, and I basically just really forged my career. I didn't ask any permissions. I was working at the record store, and I'm like, they probably have an art department. How can I get into it? I didn't have any credentials to do so.
Mhm.
Luckily, met the right people at the right time that were looking back on it. They were my mentors and really kind of guided me through it. And eventually I got the guts up to move to Los Angeles in 1997 to extend my career. At that time, desktop publishing was really coming into prominence, and I was learning along. Luckily, I mean, a lot of people didn't have computers back then of their own, so I just used the company's computers. I'd stay after and just make my own things. I would make really things that I wanted to make. And when I moved to California, I was super naive, and it's probably a good thing I was naive.
Mhm.
I just moved out, and I just tried to get jobs wherever I could, and I eventually landed a. Well, actually, when I moved out, I had a flimsy job offer at kind of like a free newspaper,
Okay.
and but then I got other jobs, met other people, and just started networking and doing different things. As I look back on my career, there's no way I could do this today. There's
Yeah.
not a chance. Um, and so as I just started making my relationships with people, I started just doing bigger things. I started moving in from print design into packaging design, into motion graphics. If there's anything in graphic design that can be done, I did it. I eventually started, when social media started coming into prominence and the iPhone, I got into UI UX. I worked for like a major healthcare provider. And so yeah, and now I'm finding myself teaching at a university. So yeah, it's been a long journey and not easy, and I've done everything backwards. But I'm here. I'm still standing.
Yeah, man. I love that because I know as a lot of times, and I reach out to a lot of people to try and get advice just on just the arc of a creative career, kind of what success looks like. Um, and the more I meet people like you, the people that have kind of gone through it all, done the full gamut, is that you don't know what a perfect day looks like. You don't know what your ideal job looks like until you just kind of you've been through as much of it as you can. And that's what I'm trying to learn right now. So it's good to be chatting with you. Um, So what have you kind of seen? Like you said, you started. So you're in California.
Yeah.
Um, must be nice because I'm here in Ohio and it's 2 degrees out right now. So
I've
lucky
heard.
you. What's the temperature out there right now? Is it like 40s,
Y You know what?
50s?
It's so funny. Like you say I live in California. I haven't gone outside today, so I literally have no idea. But I would assume it's in the 80s. But it's actually been colder here recently. So we get cold here too, but not
Yeah,
like you. I will not
yeah,
complain.
yeah. No, man. Okay, no, moving on. Anyway, I'm gonna only get sad right now. But so you moved to California from where'd you move from?
I actually was living in Phoenix, Arizona, and another place that's another beautiful place. But it's I moved because I got out of the shower once and I couldn't get dry. That's what I go. I can't do this
Yeah,
anymore. It's like,
yeah,
I've played basketball and soccer in 122-degree weather, so I've done my time in Arizona.
yeah,
But I moved here for the ocean breeze, and 27 years later, it's I'm still here.
yeah. I love that, man. You just kind of followed your instincts and wanted to wanted to make the move, and I respect that a lot. I just got my first place, and so a little bit of background on me. My name is Andy. I graduated this spring with a degree in strength and conditioning and marketing. So nothing really related to design. I had grown up doing design, just self-taught. Obviously, if you want to learn anything nowadays, it just takes a little bit of discipline. I think you can make it happen. But I know I took one design class in school, and it was the graduate class, and I audited that, so didn't get any credit for it, but I got exposed to the program a little bit, and I went to the University of Findlay up near Cleveland. So, not a prestigious institution by any means, but I already knew how to use Photoshop and Illustrator, and I'm with these kids that had done it for 4 years, and I'm like, yeah, I'm better than you guys. Not like just in the software, not in terms of career or anything like that. I was wanting to learn every day, and that helped my self confidence a lot, and just my trust in my ability to kind of learn how to do these skills. And I think that's similar to you. You're someone that has learned throughout your career and learned by doing, which is something that I really admire and value. Um, but more back to your story. What did the early days of design look like? And I know you've done a bunch of different things. So was there any kind of a conscious, trajectory, just kind of following that ball of curiosity where it led you?
So, I mean, it's so different than today. Like you can't even imagine how I don't feel that that I'm actually my age, because I'm like I still feel like those days when I was 19, and it was still fresh and everything. And but the one thing that like back then, it was like the software itself was so new. Like there was people that didn't even use the software, that like Photoshop was so new. There wasn't like InDesign. There was like it was a program called Quark, and that was a layout program that, I mean, it was the standard. The fact that InDesign even took over was like a big deal.
Yeah.
And the like people didn't use it. And to create art, what you had to do is, I mean, we would do advertising for like a newspaper, and it was just in black and white. And literally what you did was the fact that you could do it on the computer, like make all the lettering and stuff like that, print it out, and then you'd have to put it down on these boards so that it was like gridded out. And if
Mhm.
you wanted strokes, you actually had, it was like a fine little like almost like a tape, and it was like one point, and you'd have to like roll it out, and then you'd use an X-Acto knife. Okay.
Okay.
And you create this ad. Then, oh, that wasn't the end of it. Then you had to take it to what's called a stat camera, and you had to like take a picture of it. So it
Yeah.
takes all there's blue lines that you would use, on it that wouldn't show up when you take a picture of it.
Uh-huh.
Then we'd print that out. So you'd have like a a physical thing. And then we'd send that to the, whatever the publication was. So there
Uh-huh.
was a whole process to it, and it sounds so archaic and so time consuming.
Yeah,
But the
man.
thing that it really helped me develop was it was literally a handmade product, even
Mhm.
though that it was printed out. Nowadays, you're going to use the computer to really compensate for all that and make it easier. And there's easier ways to do it online now with Canva and Adobe Express and stuff like that. And they've really expedited that process. But you literally had to know so many practices like to make it all work. And
Mhm.
I think that really helps strengthen, that artistic muscle of, I say it's like going to the gym. You just have to go back all the time and you find new workouts and you find new ways. You're like, if you're lacking in one part of your body, you concentrate on that and how can I improve that and even things out. And
Mhm.
it's just an ebb and flow. And then diet's so important. Like people, I mean, the nutrition part of it is probably, it's very comparable. It's
Yeah.
like if you ignore that, then you're not going to survive. So yeah. So but that's what I did. I learned from reading books. I read magazines. I just consumed so much because I'm passionate about this, and I
Mhm.
wanted to get better. And then there were so many things that I wanted to make, and yeah, and it's all reflective of what I do today.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me to like one of the next things I want to talk about. Like, what's the day in the life look like for you? Someone who does a lot of different stuff, all kind of inclusive in design. Um, but like I said, you have a lot of different outlets for your creativity. So kind of how do you manage all those, and what does a day in the life look like for Michael?
Well, to peel the curtain back a bit, I it's very easy to get off track. So
Hmm.
one of the things that I learned probably too late in my career, but relatively recently, within the last 10 years, was organizing myself. I live in it's called Trello, and there's other ones like Notion and stuff like that that
Yeah.
are available now. But I live in Trello, and I've organized my life in Trello. And what I basically do is I have mapped out basically what a year looks like, and then I break it down even further where things that I want to do in my certain interest. But I've had to do it recently. I mean, this year was the reason why we're even talking is because I've had a strategy that I needed to up my personal brand. It was
Hmm.
definitely lacking, even though I have a ton of experience. Like people don't know who I am and what I do. So me putting out my knowledge and my expertise has been a very concentrated effort this year,
Hmm.
and using social media. We can get into all the social media stuff that it's all I would say relatively new to me, but I've been using it for clients and everything. I've never used it for myself, and that's what artists do. We sometimes don't do stuff for ourselves. We want to do it for
Right.
everybody else. But
Yeah.
I'm concentrated on strengthening my own brand, and to
Hmm.
do that, I had to organize myself because no one else is going to organize you. Your
Bingo.
clients, your employers, nobody, your family, nobody. You have to do that for yourself. And I'm learning to benefit from that. I'm able to do things, and I have to say no sometimes to things that I really want to do or I can't do, and not forsake the other things I'm trying to do.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's been a really concentrated effort within the last couple years, and it sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But planning actually helps me give me the ability to look back and say, wow, that didn't work, or this worked a little bit better, or I'm having a similar issue right now. Uh, I've done a lot of work on doing short form content on YouTube and Instagram.
Hmm.
And a lot of the things that I've been doing in the last 6 months, I actually on YouTube, it just all changed. I
Hmm.
literally went from like 2,500 views on this one project I was working on to like literally like five. And I don't, and I have a suspicion why that is, but it gives me metrics where I can actually look back and say, oh wow, this really worked well, or wow, this really fell off. And I'm keen about that. I'm not naive about it anymore.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So, knowing you have all these different, I'm guessing on YouTube you work with a couple of different channels. That's my impression. Yeah, you have the carvers and creators, which is super cool. I actually saw that Good Mythical Morning episode like a long time ago, so I saw that in your portfolio, and that kind of like rung a bell. So that's really cool. But and you also have the baseball brew crew.
Mhm.
What else is there going on? I know there's
Uh,
a ton of
yeah,
stuff.
I actually left the Carvers show this year, and
Okay.
but I'm putting my efforts into well, the Baseball Brew Crew is something that started like in 2016. It's my side passion. It's my friends and I are super passionate about craft beer and baseball. We brought it together in 2016. So we go around to all the baseball stadiums and talk about the craft beer. During COVID, we were all locked down, so we just started a podcast, weekly podcast, and we did it for 160 weeks straight. And it
Wow.
was, yeah, it was really well, between the carvers and the baseball. It was like it definitely helped me get my voice and get comfortable going on camera, even talking like this. I don't think that before that I would have been as comfortable and I wouldn't have talked as well. But it definitely helped me get my voice.
Yeah.
And
Dude, one thing, I'm gonna cut you off real quick. I don't
sure,
do that
sure,
very
sure.
often. Talking on camera like this is a big reason why I started like doing this too. So I totally understand getting nervous and like trying to like articulate your words. Um, so dude, I get that 100%. And I think I'm only like 6 months into doing this now. But I think this is going to be something that benefits me a lot because I mean, I grew up, um, I had like a speech impairment and stuff like that, and I have took speech therapy. I actually wear hearing aids right now, so but yeah, man, I know how hard it can be, just like kind of the stuff that goes through your head when you're just talking, and I think it really helps to just because I know I just personally like for my own like excitement, career excitement, and everything like that. When I talk about my projects and the stuff I'm doing, I just get so much more energized. It kind of like makes it real in your mind, and that's giving me so much more momentum when I can talk to other people about what they have going on and then give them a spotlight. So that's kind of a big reason of why you're here today. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. But
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I think that the one thing that it's helped me in my teaching and my presentations and how I talk to people. And I said, I've always been super enthusiastic about my work and what I do. But I noticed that, like, I came off as maybe sometimes like too enthusiastic. So
yeah,
I've learned to kind of regulate that and have conversations with people. And I think that also in today's world, like broadcasting like this is really valuable. Like you were saying, like people don't see those things as disabilities anymore. They see it as like empowering that you're actually, you have these things and there's other people out there that might not be doing it, that might be empowered by, wow, that if he did it, that I can do it. And one thing that I've never told anybody, and I never thought I could tell anybody, is actually I'm colorblind, purples and greens. And I've never thought that there was ever a opportunity or even a reason that would even I would even bring that up, right? Because if it seemed like if he can't be that good of a graphic designer if he doesn't, if he's colorblind. But again, it's like I've learned to get better in mixing colors in Photoshop because of it. And
mm,
I actually like I dial in on the numbers. So if I have a gold, in CYMK, it's 10, 25, 65, 0. So
huh,
like I know how to I'm actually better at it. And I never thought that would ever be empowering to anybody. But it's
uh-huh,
something I would never admit. And I think having a voice and talking about these things, you never knew who's going to see this that would say like, wow, I thought that would hold me back. And I'm like, it can, but
mm,
I never thought anything of it. I just work past it. It's just like everything we do. We work
yeah.
past it.
I love that, man. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Man, you picked a great profession for that, but you use it to your benefit, and now you have this awesome story that comes from it. So, but yeah, man, I love that for sure. But how do you kind of back your? I know I cut you off, and I hate doing
Oh, it's
that,
okay.
but I only do it if I feel like it really adds value to the conversation. Because
Sure, sure.
to me, the conversation becomes above the interview and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, so tell me kind of like ideal day in the life. How do you like start to finish, wake up, go to bed? How do you implement all these different creative outlets?
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about these other things I'm super passionate about. The one thing that I always neglected in this process was me. I actually found out, at a point where like people didn't know what I did, and like people that have known me for years. And I just had a friend that I basically took his logo, and he was asking me some opinions on it, and I basically took it and I said, "Hey, can I use this as a case study? I'd like to like take your brand. I'd like to rebrand you." And it's like, if you want to use it, great. If not, that's fine too.
Mhm.
And he was like, absolutely. So I basically took his brand and actually rebranded it, but I told a story about it. And I'm like, this is why I think that this brand is probably better for you. And it's more useful. It's actually more modern. It actually kind of embodies more of you in this than the previous logo. And I was able to tell that story, and he loved it. And what I found out in that process was that I didn't know that he was trying to personally rebrand himself, and that gave him the confidence. Like, he's all, oh wow, this is what this can be, this is amazing. And he was kind of going through what I was going through, is trying to understand what, the next chapters of his life are in his own profession. And he's well known as a chiropractor, but like he wanted to be so much more and bigger and get out there more. And so that's I found that I had more to offer than I ever wanted to. I always thought that it was talking about yourself. That's not it. I'm always talking about, how can I help you? How can I help these other people? But I'm
Mhm.
finding that strengthening myself, I can help so many more people. And teaching what I know, I can inspire and help the next generation of designers. And I'm super thankful that you even reached out, and it's a perfect case of that, because I only started doing stuff on LinkedIn literally on the first of this month.
Yeah.
So, where are we at? The 18th of January.
Mhm.
So the fact that we're connecting, we're talking like this, it's showing me that me putting myself out there is actually more valuable than me trying to make something for someone that somebody or maybe nobody will see.
Right. Exactly, man. I love that. Yeah, that's you've been really consistent just posting this year, and I the value that comes out of just sharing what you know, like I said, it never hurts. It never hurts to just share what you have going on, even and someone somewhere can take value out of it, provided that you put the time in and you you have the career knowledge to back it up, and you have these case. I saw that case study, the 417 chiropractic. Is that what it was
Oh
called?
yeah, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. That was a great case study. The all the pictures and the redoing of the spine and everything. It was great work. But I mean, yeah, you and I kind of see what you mean. Knowing what the next chapter looks like can sometimes be kind of scary, but I think it kind of takes a life of its own, like and that was kind of the theme we talked about that led you to where you are now. And it looks like you have just I mean, we haven't gone into depth on it. It looks like you have, some big goals, looking ahead. And I'm excited to see where it takes you because just, getting started, I know it's brought us in contact, so I'm really grateful for that. But um, yeah, what are some of the goals you have for this year? If you don't mind sharing, and
Sure.
how do they kind of relate to your core purpose and getting your story out there?
So one of the things that I've done in the last 2 years, so I got laid off from one of my biggest jobs. So my UI UX job, I got laid off 2 years ago, and it hurt only because not so much that I got laid off, and it was I mean, for 8 years it was a roller coaster ride anyway. So
Mhm.
it was just like, it was one of those things, just kind of, that's what happens in a corporate job. And I was lucky to hang out for 8 years. Couldn't believe that I got that long. But what
Yeah.
I found out was, when I tried to get back into the field and try to do these other things, I found out that I wasn't positioned properly to do the type of work that people were now looking for.
Yeah.
I was too busy hanging on to whatever that job was.
Yeah.
And it really introduced me to myself, as far as like, well, why did I get into this? What do I want to do? UI UX was something I could do, but it wasn't my passion. So what is my passion? And I realized that I didn't have any like big target people that I wanted to work for or be around or do. So I had to define that. So if someone were to corner me and say, "Who do you want to work for?" We can grant it right now. Who is that? I could tell you. And one of them is Adobe. I do. I'm a part of their Adobe Community Experts program.
Yep.
I do stuff regularly for Adobe all the time. The only thing I don't do is work for Adobe.
Yeah.
I've been all around it. I was a teaching assistant at Adobe Max this year, which was a huge honor.
Yeah. I saw.
And yeah, and but I never thought I'd be in that position. So it would be kind of a full circle moment, and that the fact that the thing that gave me this career and my passion and learning for it is actually someone that I could eventually work for. I never thought that possible for myself. My
Mhm.
other one is I'd love to work for minor league baseball or major league baseball. But the thing that I found out in this
Yeah.
process was that as I wasn't positioning myself to work for them. I wasn't doing the work that would attract those clients. So
Okay.
now I'm actually very concentrated on, showing my expertise, showing what I can do, and targeting those uh, specific companies. And instead of wondering, hey, who's going to see me and who's going to give me a chance, I'm just like, no, I'm going to get in front of these people and make them notice me.
Yeah, dude, I love that. Okay, a couple things I want to unpack there. So, I going back to your full time job, um, and I this is something I very much relate to right now because I'm in my first graphic design job out of school. I work for a company called Rudis, and we do proof wrestling apparel for the biggest supplier of wrestling apparel in the country. So it's very we spend most of our day in Illustrator, sometimes in Photoshop, building out team stores, designing garments, making mock-ups and stuff like that. And it's a good place to learn. But what I am seeing, I'm trying to be very self-aware and impartial, and what I kind of the parallels that you drew to your um, UI UX job with Kaiser Permanente was you come into that job and you get so focused on the day to day of that and you don't and you have your side hustles on the side like me. I come home every night and try to get I try to get 4 hours every night of sleep and of of work
Mhm.
on the business, but but you get so removed, you're in that day to day of the job that becomes you lose this other side of how you lose your own dreams and what you're so focused on how what you're doing at your job progresses to the next phase of that job, whether it be a promotion, that you're in this own entirely other world that, this not it's not reality. Your career and the stuff that you have, your long-term goals, like the dreams that you had when you were when you were a kid, like stuff like that. Working with the MLB Adobe Max, it's harder to string together the actions in just when you're just doing something in the evenings that can lead to that kind of result. And that's what I see myself right now. So I really appreciate that reminder is to just kind of be, I call it like forward thinking and backwards planning, to, iterate on your actions to try and get to that main result. And I mean, you're already getting there, man. Like you're proving your expertise with these articles that I see every day, and you got to Adobe Max. One of my and I can see how what you're doing is building that foundation because I mean just from the header on your website, everything looks very polished, professional, and you give off the aura, not an aura because you it's true, but you have the aura of credibility and um professionalism, and another word I would use would be credibility, just across the board. So I think that's a big part of how what you're doing right now is building that. And I can very
easily see how this would lead you to some of those dream jobs. Like I can see it. So I can't wait till it happens. So I'm
Well,
excited
I
for it.
appreciate that very much, and yeah, and the sooner the better. Universe, anytime you want to make this happen, it's tough, and I'm still trying to visualize, especially with social media. I'm trying to build all of these things. My goal is to have 10,000 on every platform, and I feel like that's another bit of, when you have eyes on you, but it's also putting out that content that people are going to see. And, it's building that trust, and people wanting to, and building the things out there, putting the stuff out in the world that you want to do as well. I mean, like I said, UI UX was not my passion. I was doing a lot of basically what I was doing with my passion for typography, was just organizing things with accessibility and stuff like that. And I wound up being like, almost like a product designer in a sense. And it just kind of something I fell into, but I was like, was I passionate about it? Probably not. But it was just where my life was at the time professionally. And, but I noticed that I was definitely not putting the stuff out there that wanted to be known for. And so, getting back to that, and I was just actually in your area. I was in the Cleveland area. I went to Erie. I went to Buffalo. I went to Syracuse. So during that time, my girlfriend was doing some other things out there for her nonprofit, and I went to minor league baseball games and major league baseball games, and documented it, and basically like following my passion. So I also, I think it's easier at my age as well. Like I don't care about anything else but what's going to make me happy. Like I'm
Mhm.
not trying to get the newest car, wear the latest clothes. I'm all about building this foundation and unapologetic about it. And I think that one thing that I teach with my students is no one's going to give you this career. You have to earn it, and you have to go out there and get what you want. And if you want to take weekends off, that's fantastic. But just know there's someone out there that's working 7 days a week.
Mhm.
And no one holds your place in line. And you can be the artist that you want to be. And it's quite a gift to be an artist that you get to do this. It's not tax prep. It's not being a lawyer. It's not being a surgeon, where things are on the line. This takes a talent, it's a skill, and I think that it should be valued. But you can go do something else if you want, but there's someone out there hustling and doing this. And
Mhm.
like you were saying, like the sleep part of it, like I work 16 hours a day, like uh, uh I 14 to be fair, but it's all concentrated on the things I want to do.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you get to some people that just, I mean, not everyone's gonna get that. And it's like, and I'm sure there's the same as for you. So a lot of the times it doesn't feel like work, you know?
Never
Um,
does.
to me, there's parts of it that do. Um, and that's being self-aware and knowing, you know, when you work out your schedule, like what times of day you have to do the grindy stuff to put down your, approach work as, seeing the bigger picture, trying to zoom out a little bit and to get it. I'm sorry, I'm freezing right now.
I can
But
imagine.
yeah,
Can I
it's
tell you the part that might be work to you?
yeah. Go ahead.
There's a saying that I think that I've come up with. I hope I have, but I say that work is when you're on somebody else's schedule.
Okay.
You're actually working for them, and they're guiding you, and they have you basically doing what they need to do. You need to do for them. But if
Yeah,
you're working for yourself and you're doing all these things, I can go. I said, I wish I could work 24 hours, and I would work it. That's probably why there's only 24 hours. If there was 26 hours, I'd work those two. I work the 2 extra hours on
yeah.
myself.
Hmm.
So we all get 24 hours. But yeah, it's a grind when you're doing things that are not getting you ahead, when you're living somebody else's dream, you're building someone else's dream and not your own.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%, and I think there's a balance too, because and I'm sure you can relate to this. There's a balance, especially as creatives. And this is something that I've done a lot of ruminating on, if you can't tell. But there's a balance between these two perspectives, these two little Andys kind of back and forth. Not really back and forth, but the two sides of um, my professional self-talk dialogue. And it's I work 40 hours a week at a graphic design job. I am so blessed to have a job, to have an apartment to my name, to have savings, to have a foundation, to be able to go to a a work environment that is heated, thank God, and air conditioned, and I get to exercise some sort of creativity, even if I don't have creative freedom. And there's this other side that says you can build so much more for yourself. Look at all these other people that have built careers and lives for themselves, and you're so young, you can go and make it happen. And I'm trying to find, maybe you can give us some insight on if you've had similar thoughts on how you would navigate the two perspectives between being grateful and at the same time like wanting more and trying to make more for yourself. Because I think there's also the dichotomy of you have to go through the not having control of your time, as a creative, to then when you do have control of your time, it's just you appreciate it so much more and you put so much more into your projects. And like you said, when you're working for yourself, it does I don't think I 100% agree that doesn't really qualify as work, because you're building, and there's just unlimited sustainable energy when you have that creative freedom and you're kind of following your own light and you're following your own journey. So can you kind of speak on like the two different perspectives between being grateful and also at the same time wanting more? Because I can kind of see how just in this year you kind of had a little bit of a shift to working and more for yourself and wanting more. So what did that look like for you?
Yeah, and I think it's definitely changed as I've gotten older, and I've done things in my life. Like I said, I don't want to discount going on vacations and exploring the world and doing all these things. And I definitely think that everybody should do that. And if that's your goal, is to get that done, or to do those types of have your work do that, you should definitely do that. And you should really define early in your career, like, what do you really want from this? Is it money? Is it fame? Is it the ability to travel, ability to live somewhere that you never thought you could? I think if you start thinking about that like that, instead of just kind of just like, oh, I want to know what life will bring, I think you should definitely plan, because I think you'll definitely be more grateful in your journey. And it is all about the journey. Like, I look back and it wasn't easy, but I can look back now and say, like, I'm so thankful that it wasn't easy, because if it was easy, then a lot of more people would be doing it.
Mhm.
And I might not have gotten the chances that I did, but I stuck it out. And I think that, like, sticking it out is one big component of all this. And I will tell you something, working for someone, it's much different than owning your own business and owning what you do. And quite frankly, I think it's yes, it's I went to the bank one time and I was putting in a check, and someone saw my business name on it. They're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, I told them what I did, and they're like, "Oh, that's so great. You get to make your own hours, you get to do all this and blah 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 blah." And I'm like, quite frankly, I just picked the hour. I work the same hours. In fact, I work even more and harder,
Mhm.
and I work on weekends because I know that everything is dependent on me doing this for myself.
Mhm.
So there's a lot more pressure on it than working for someone else. You can actually leave and have your own life, right?
Yeah.
But but you need to have both experiences. And I think that, usually when you're employed with someone, you get to the point where, like, I'm not growing, I'm not doing things that I want to do, and I have to, like, do this for myself. So it's either creating it on the side. That's one thing that I did. And now it could be potentially like the thing that I do for myself exclusively. And it's to the point of this is it evolves in what you're doing. And now I'm getting into the education space, where I'm now thinking that creating an education space for myself makes the most sense. And I
Mhm.
never in a million years thought that that would be the case.
Yeah.
So you have to be very open to everything. And the more that you, like I'm getting a lot of fulfillment from seeing people learn from me. And it's something that I never really got from making stuff for people. Like,
Mhm.
I could make I said, I have all this experience and I've done all these things in my career. No one seems to really care. But when I teach them like this tool in Illustrator, and people are like, their minds are blown and they want more. And
Mhm.
or I'm teaching them about the business of design, something that as artists, we never get. We know how to make stuff, but we know how to make a business for ourselves. So when I'm teaching them all the things and all the mistakes and all the different things that are available for creators now, it's this to see people come back and like, I'm so glad I got that. I didn't really understand it at the time, but the fact that
Mhm.
you talked about it and that I can talk to you now more about it, it makes much more sense. And what do you think about this? That gives me so much more pleasure now than making something for something that's, again, somebody may or may not see.
Yeah, dude, I relate to that 1,000%. And I'm going to tell you another little anecdote to how I can relate to that is that I feel the same way too. I love designing. I love using software. I love brand identity. I love doing that. I've done that 100 times now. Just the process of learning, and this kind of feeds into becoming more self-aware and why you do what you do, and using that to kind of fuel future decisions and kind of steer your direction a little bit. But I I just knew, like, I'm a creative person. I love doing this. But you're right. Like, you do this thing, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Pat Flynn. He has this podcast. It's called SPI. It's a very it's an entrepreneurship podcast. But he used to be an architect, and he got laid off, and before he became an entrepreneur, and I can't remember where he was, but I think he said he was in Japan or something like that, and he designed this building, and I think it was some kind of a restaurant, and people were going in and out. It's just a bustling middle of the day. All these people are going in and out. And he's like, "Man, I created that." And he looked around all these people and he said, "Nobody knows or cares." And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Man, I do relate to that because I'm seeing your work have value. They're seeing other people benefit from your work. There's that disconnect because some of them, like I've seen it now, just seeing all of our wrestling gear go out, and you see pictures of it all over social media. All these kids are wearing their team store outfits and everything, and you see your work have impact. And I'm sure you've seen that many times in your own on your own projects. And it's like, yeah, that's cool at first, and then that moment passes very fast,
Mm-hmm.
and you're left kind of a little bit empty. So, I mean, the biggest shift for me this past 6 months that has lit a fire under me, and that I see under you too, is that you can get this benefit of talking to other people, other creatives, and then, okay, I'm going to use my audience to highlight their work, lift them up, have a conversation with them, get to know them, grow my network at the same time, but also elevate and show everything that they have going on to my audience, and seeing how they react to that. Like when I see Michael's reaction after I write an article on him, and share all of his projects with his, all the things that he's done in his portfolio, and talk to you about the conversation that we had, and to see and make these awesome like thumbnails that I do for the YouTube videos and for the blog posts and everything. When I see your reaction to that, that's going to be my creative fulfillment. That's not going to go away. And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you found that with teaching. So I'm really happy for you there. But what have you found about teaching that kind of fills your cup the most? I know you work with college students, so probably people that are quite young. Um, but what about that really fills you up? And I know you talked a little bit about it, but what's been your experience with this so far?
Yeah, and I have a bit of imposter syndrome when it comes to it. I wasn't formally trained. And so when you talk about like self-taught, like literally I self-taught myself, and luckily I had enough talent um to get by with that. And teaching, I've only done it in the last 2 years, and I kind of fell into it, and I was given the opportunity to do it, and I was again scared, and I was like, "Am I? What do I have to say?" And after 2 years of it, I found out I have a lot to say,
Mhm.
and as I poll my students, I actually ask them like, "What are you looking for? What do you are? Have you gotten that within learning of this?" And I've found some kind of pain points, and I think that I can address those pain points, and I never would have thought that that would ever be the case for me. And one of the things that it's also inspired me to do is actually go back to school myself and get like if not anything, to break the cycle of my family of getting education, and I looking back on it, I never even considered why I didn't pursue education. It was probably money, and it was probably time, and I was really fending for myself at an early age. Um, but I have the opportunity now, and I never thought there was. And this is what the beautiful part of the internet and everything, and me meeting you. It's like the internet is very powerful.
Mhm.
Instagram, just putting stuff up on a website. The fact that you can even see my work, and my work is out there, and can even be seen is quite powerful. So
Mhm.
I've learned that, and that's why I'm eager to build this learning platform. Is I know there's a lot of people like me that may be held back and not have the opportunities that everybody has, and um I'd love to address those uh people, but also really give back more than I get back, because I
Mhm.
feel like I'm going to get as much back as I need. And is it about making $1 million? That would be fantastic. I could do so many things uh, positive for my girlfriend's nonprofit, for other things that I'm passionate about. But it isn't about making $1 million. It's about really ultimate happiness for myself, and I think that that's one thing I've always been striving for, is happiness.
Mhm.
And I put all these other things as far as goals, as that's what I was trying to reach, but happiness was never in it. And now I said when I teach people about like even emerging technology. Like I've been learning about a lot about Mid Journey, Chat GPT, and all these different things that are super disruptions in graphic design. Like people think that like AI is going to take over graphic designers' jobs, and that's very understandable, because I've been through, when the computer that took away what I was doing before, right?
Yeah.
Phones now have better cameras than DSLRs and traditional film cameras. I've been through this before.
Mhm.
They're all just tools, and
Yeah.
it's how you use those tools. And you have to adapt. You have to understand that to where your place in this is. And if it's still in drawing and painting, definitely go all in on that, because there's still a place for that.
Mhm. I want to double click on that real quick because um, that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. Is you strike me as someone that has evolved very well with the times. Like I mean, you even said you were here from the beginning, and you've done all these different modalities and mediums. So I think you're a very qualified person to answer the question of what is a good way to stay on the pulse of what's trending, and how do you keep yourself educated? Are there specific people or places that you follow or expose yourself to make sure that you're equipped? Because I see you as very knowledgeable and someone who's very takes what they do seriously, and I really value that. So how do you kind of keep your finger on the pulse of the industry and what's going on?
Well, I had a friend who he was actually, the way he was learning graphic design is he was actually going online and showing what he had learned, literally practically showing himself like, I just learned this thing, and it was called Never Stop Learning. And he just went week to week to week, and that's how he basically he actually got jobs from that. He would actually people saw that and understood it, and he had a lot of expertise very quickly with that. And that's the thing that I didn't realize I was doing is I'm so passionate about this. I never wanted to be behind. And um if I could figure out my place in these different technologies, it made it a lot more tangible to where I'm like, how can I position myself? How can I show that I can do these certain things? A perfect case of this was probably like 2018 or so. I was kind of getting in the space. This is when I was in the UI UX space, but I was getting into a more the AR and VR areas and just learning about it,
Mhm.
not buying or investing or anything, just learning about it. Because I figure with my typography background, my UI UX background,
Mhm.
I said all of these things are going to have an interface. Maybe the place I need to be is making interfaces for these types of things and uh,
Mhm.
doing accessibility and typography for these certain things. And I actually got to learn about there was a thing called the Microsoft HoloLens. And it was
Mhm.
basically like a helmet that you could put on. And it was like, and I got to put one on and everything and learn about it and see everything. And, it was like swipe gestures and everything. But what they were basically envisioning this to be was that surgeons were actually going to be putting this on and actually seeing ways of seeing the body differently and doing surgery with these helmets on. I'm not
Mhm.
sure if it ever came to pass or if it actually ever happened. But the fact that I was in that space and learning about that, it was just learning about future technology and how I can be a part of that. And actually, it really intrigued me. Now, if it doesn't intrigue someone and they're not into it, then you're not going to get very far with it. But I always wanted to be 2-3 years ahead of what I'm doing. And
Mhm.
I'm like, as I look at Midjourney and all these different platforms and stuff like that, the thing that I wanted to do, and this is the very first thing I wanted to do, is not make art for me. It's to make the things that I wanted to replicate really quickly. So a whole bunch of bokeh backgrounds, like for posters. So I didn't have
Mhm.
to like make them manually. That's what
Mhm.
I wanted to do. Or
Yeah.
I wanted to make things multiples, and really work for me. And that's the way I'm using Chat GPT now.
Mhm.
Is it's the assistant that I've always wanted,
Yeah.
and I tell it to do the things that I need that I can't do, then slowing me down. So
Mhm.
I think of it in those terms.
Yeah, I love that. What are some of the things that you use specifically? Because I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this as a teacher that you use some of these newer tools for. Um, and I think there's a big thing with AI tools that they're kind of there's a friction to in it. I mean, they're great once you understand kind of how they work, but it's a friction to kind of find the way to integrate them into your current workflow because inertia is any sort of change is uncomfortable. I know just with the podcasts and the blog and with content, um, I'm exploring a lot of different avenues, and one of them is I have a bunch of them I could name that I've tried, and that's I mean you got to be your own guinea pig in a sense, but and what I want the next chapter on that for me is learning about the design specific tools like Midjourney and you know, geez, there's so many now, but yeah, all the headshot generators and I
Mhm.
would. It's almost one of those things where it's like the analogy of like hardware versus software. So you know how to use a computer, but you don't have to know how a computer works. Kind of like that analogy that I would
Mhm.
give to it. But some of the things that like I just figured this out a couple weeks ago, and it's insane. Like I so for there's a ChatGPT has a limit on character limit. So there's another one that's called Claude AI. I actually have
Yes.
the Chrome
Mhm.
extension. I feel like you know all these already, so
I
I
I
might
I
be
actually do. I've done a lot of research on it. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So validate this process for me here. I'm trying, and there's another fun part is how you can kind of connect them and create something that's specific to you because everyone's exact workflow that they're coming into this with is a little bit different. So I think kind of like I said, kind of finding how it fits into what you need to get done. So right now I have content. I have 3 posts a week. I have the blog once a week. I have 1 podcast a week, 1 blog a week, and everything I'm doing on LinkedIn. So I want to automate everything that I can. So my plan with that, and this is kind of a fun little workflow, and I want to get into more of these specific graphic design specific AI tools that you have your pulse on, that you're excited about. But so I use Quad AI to create an MP3 or a transcript of the MP3 file from the podcast. It'll make it to a TXT file. Then I can upload that and then provide a prompt that summarizes everything, and then give in that prompt, make it say a blog post that is, out of this, in this duration format, bullet points, everything like that, the duration, like how many words per paragraph, and then under each subheading, put in a specific quote from the interview, and that tends to work pretty well. But what are some of your more, and that's just my single use case, I'm always expanding on it. Notion AI has some really cool tools because I've been integrated into that. I've been using this database to track everything I do since my senior year of high school, which is really cool. So learning how to do that more, I can implement that more into my workflow. But what are some of your favorites, and what are some design specific ones that you are excited about?
So I'm going to step back because I want to, something that I teach in my business classes, and it's usually at the beginning. The one thing that I want to know before I answer that question is, do you know who you're talking to, or want to talk to? Have you ever done any user personas as to the person that's going to get the most benefit from what you're doing?
Yes, for the listener. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so you are targeting all your content towards that listener, that people that are going to resonate with it.
And
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So not to cut you off again, because I don't like doing that, but for me, I follow the pulse of my own curiosity. For me, the audience is other people like me. So I have a group of people at work that listen to the show, primarily just young creatives who want to kind of navigate their careers and are looking for people that are knowledgeable in the space, and also just motivate and inspire them, because part of it is seeing people that have done it successfully, like interviewing these creative agency owners and people that have used creativity and design to build a successful life. So my idea is, who I'm targeting with the show is people that are like me, that are driven and young, and are kind of deciding what that ideal life looks like, what creative success looks like for them. And it can be a lot of different things, as I'm learning so far, because no 2 people I have interviewed so far are exactly the same. So that's kind of my litmus test for interviewing good people, and providing useful information, is the stuff that I would want to know as someone who wants to be successful in creativity. So that's my kind of proxy.
Yeah, then that's super important, and I'm glad that we're putting that out there, because like, if you don't have that and you're just doing this kind of haphazardly, like, it can get off track very quickly. So you're creating your own your own show that will appeal to a certain segment. So, and you're basically creating the show that you want. That's the show that you want to see. Like, I wish this type of show existed, so this is why I'm doing this. And it makes total sense. And that's exactly why I've started the ones that I have as well. So I literally use Chat GPT every single day, and to automate my tasks, but also kind of help me formulate and structure a lot of the things that I'm trying to do. And it also takes out, I think, as artists and just creatives in general, we question a lot of things. Are we doing this right? Is this, am I in the right ballpark? Am I using the right language? Am I using all this and that? At least it gives me a little bit of a basis of like, okay, now that I see it in front of me, I do need to tweak this. I do need to tweak that. And I feel a little bit more comfortable about what I'm doing. It gives me a good basis for it.
Mhm.
I use Grammarly all the time. So
Mhm.
whenever I take anything that ChatGPT gives me, I throw it right in Grammarly, and it
Mm.
helps me
Okay.
formulate. And I write everything in Grammarly because it helps me write better and it helps me articulate it better. And it's also, it has a plagiarism. The paid one I think has a plagiarism. I don't know if the free one does, but it actually tells me if the things that I'm doing, if is it taking it from somewhere else. And it actually, I'm like, oh wow, I can see the sources that it's taking it from.
Mhm.
So I use that a lot, and I organize myself, and I also ask. I also use it for like whenever I need hashtags, or I need or targeted hashtags, or different types of things like that. Or I'm so I lean on that a lot. I've been
Mhm.
delving into Midjourney. I was doing Dolly, and but the thing that I want to stress as a creative is it doesn't end with just making it. And also, like, Adobe has there's a Firefly.
Mhm.
But the thing that I definitely want to stress is I use these as elements, almost like stock photography. Like
Mhm.
and I'm like, I'm creating these elements that I can use in other things and digitally and stuff like that. So that's, if you see my Instagram for a long time on the Carvers and Creators show, we would spin a wheel and it would come up with a character and an emotion. And the guys would carve it out of a pumpkin or a butternut squash. Well, I never got in on it. And I was like, well, what can I do as a creative to take those prompts as well? And I started making um, album covers out of it. It's kind of turned into album covers because it was just a square. So I was
Mhm.
like, I use them as like potential band names. So I would make album covers out of it. So I was using it. And I found it. I was like, I can learn Midjourney, Dolly, and these different things and use those prompts as like different ways that I can push it a little bit and then take it in there and make them look like old album covers and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I wasn't just like relying on it to do all the work for me. I was actually, being more creative and trying to push it past the realm of possibilities that people would do. And it allowed me to do the typography I wanted, the different type of inside little jokes or pop culture references in there. So I was really, it was bringing more of me into the project, but it was just a tool. And
Mhm.
the more I kind of leaned on it and I found out, the different versions of it, that, I mean, from one version to the next, I even did it in my class. I just taught them, the basics of it. And then we went back in afterwards. I did a review and I'm like, look what it can do now. Those same prompts, look what it gets you.
Mhm.
So it actually is moving so quickly. So I wasn't just learning it or getting in there. I was actually using it. And if I decide to do something with it, great. If I don't, at least I know about it. And I think it's like, as creatives, we don't need to know everything, but it's nice to know a little bit. I don't know a lot about 3D, but I've gotten it. Understand how to get around. Do I know
Mhm.
how to do ambient occlusion? No, I probably couldn't do it, or other types of things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because kind of like we said in the beginning is that you want to have a niche, you want to have something that you're known for. And my friend Redeem Malinik, he's wrote these books. We had him on a couple weeks ago, but he says to get really good at one thing and then kind of good at everything else, and that way you have if that creativity strikes you while you're trying these other things, then you can either look to make a combination of it or you can kind of tail more that direction. And it's just following, it's like a cat following this yarn ball of creativity. It just, you go wherever it takes you. And so I love that kind of as a proxy to figuring out, where you go and using the tools that kind of aid that process naturally. So
Yep.
last thing I want to ask you about, because I know it's been like an hour and like just super value your time today, man. Like that's the thing that I say to everyone that comes on now is after working a full-time job, like minutes matter and hours matter even more. So like any time you can give me, I'm genuinely very grateful for.
Oh,
So
my pleasure. My pleasure.
but yeah, I wanted to ask you kind of about your students, your teaching. What are some of the, given that the audience of the show, like what are some of the habits, even if you can put yourself as a hypothetical in this scenario, of people that go on to be successful in the creative industry, like is it I know it boils down a lot to making connections and not being afraid to get your work out there. But what are some of the habits and routines and just quirks that you see in your most successful students, or something that you wish you embodied when you were younger?
The number one trait that I notice from the people that I know will be successful is they ask questions of me. They don't when they only have a limited time with me, and they know that they have questions, and they actually ask me those questions, and then they follow up on the questions. Um, those are the people that I know that are going to be successful, because one of the things that has kept me, and we haven't said it once, I don't think, in this, but we should have said it, is I've always remained curious about everything. So if these new tools come up, your curiosity says like, well, what's this about? It's not me going, uh-oh, I'm gonna have to throw my career in the garbage because it's gonna be easier for everybody. And I'm like, no, I'm curious about it. I'm curious about how I fit in with that, how I can elevate myself. And that's always throughout my career. I've always just been curious, like, oh, I love baseball logos and trading cards, or and Mad Magazine, or like the reason why I do what I do. And I'm like, well, interesting. Like, why is the cover page different than the inside pages? It's a different type of paper. What is it? What does it take? And how would I make my own magazine? So it's
Mhm,
always that curiosity that always just kind of forged. I'm like, how do I make something look vintage like that? How do I make something look modern? If
mhm,
I'm doing something for a luxury line and I'm trying to appeal to women, what's the difference between that and doing it for a man? What are the colors? What are some, w- you know, I need to do more research, and it's the curiosity part of it. And I think that that's what
mhm,
kind of led me to fall into UI UX. It was the curiosity of like, why does a user do something? How can I visually make them do something? And there's a lot of like UX research that's like, understanding the habits of it. And our phones are a big part of that. So the people that were most curious were the people that I knew that they were gonna do well in this. Because if you don't ask questions, you're not going to get much information because no one's going to give it to you.
mm. Yeah, I love that. And I think another thing, if I can add on that, is the ability to be curious from a point of solving problems. Like, the reason that you want to know these things, the reason that your curiosity is driving you, is because you want to solve problems. You want to get to um, a better state than where you are now, and using the creativity, using those methods that you learn about to aid in whether it's a project or solving a problem for a client. You want to approach your work with the ideas of reaching a resolution and solving something, and that satisfaction that comes from that, I think, is a big key piece that leads to a good career as well. Because there's so much stuff that's going to come up inevitably. Like, I've seen this already, and I've only been in business for a year, not even a year, like 4 months at the end of 2023. But there's so much stuff that comes up that you have to be curious, because you're going to have to learn to do stuff that you didn't originally think you were going to have to do. Whether it's, um, I was building out a Shopify store, you have to get in touch with suppliers, and then all these different, you go down these rabbit holes. So being curious is just, I think, is a great cure to having to deal with these things. Because if you downloaded all this knowledge, then it's all lessons learned, and you can get to solving those problems. So
Yeah, we think we're one thing. We're all we try to do is solve problems visually. You're absolutely right.
yeah. Well, man, that's I have a couple rapid fire questions. I sent these over to
Sure,
you,
sure, sure, sure.
but and I think that'll be a good way to close out.
Okay.
But so your favorite platform so far this year, LinkedIn or Instagram?
So, I've actually really embraced Instagram, because I never thought it was for me. I never thought I could be a person on there, and but I'm all in on LinkedIn this year. So I would say it's 60-40. They both have their definite values for creators and designers. And I think that the one X factor is art. I think that people love watching art, learning about art, and I think that you can do really well with both platforms.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think there's something to be said too, and I mean, we share this interest is that to find a platform and go all in on it rather than trying to, half-ass a bunch of different ones. Um, LinkedIn and Instagram are my two. Like that's about all I can manage and put out a respectable quality level. Because a lot of what worked on LinkedIn works on Instagram.
Yeah, I
I
think it's underrated. LinkedIn is very underrated.
Right, it is, and it's like I don't, and they're different too. But like I feel like the time I spend on LinkedIn afterwards, I don't feel bad about it. Like if I spend 30 minutes on LinkedIn, I'm always commenting, always engaging. It's less visually captivating, so you're more likely to be productive. And I don't regret the time I spend on LinkedIn. Like, whereas if I feel like I scroll Instagram for 30 minutes, then I just go down so many rabbit holes that aren't productive. But I talked to my friend James Barnard. He has a really big following on Instagram because he does a lot of like Illustrator tips and stuff like that. He's got a very polished sort of brand. He has done very well on Instagram algorithm, and he knows the platform and he's gone all in on it. He's present on the other platforms. He's present on YouTube. He's present on Instagram, but he's very bullish on Instagram and TikTok a little bit. But I mean, those are to me, those are the same thing, but they're not the same thing. But he knows what he's good at. As to the moral of the story, he knows what he's good at, and he can tailor his content accordingly to get the results that he's shooting for. So
Yeah, I've been testing them all. So I'm like, right now I'm still in testing phase. So I'm like, I haven't gone in on one of them, but I understand them a little bit different just being on all of them right now.
I think you do very, very well on LinkedIn because you have that credibility. And in an environment like LinkedIn, I think that's where people who are serious about wanting to improve and learn, those are the people there that would resonate with what you do. I know just from the articles, and I mean, I hope one of these days you get into courses because I think that's something you could add a lot of value in. Courses or community, maybe something that I'm just thinking like, have you ever heard of Circle?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm in another group that they use Circle quite a bit.
yeah, I'm in a community too. I can see you owning something like that, just kind of with your knowledge and experience, and if you have courses that integrates very well with Circle. So,
Well, there's stuff coming sooner than later on that.
oh man, oh, okay. But yeah, we'll have to keep our fingers on the pulse of that because that's exciting to hear.
Sure.
But what's your favorite font?
My favorite font is if I had to go to one, I use one called Champion Gothic. It's if you look on is it here typography.com, if you could look up Champion Gothic. But my fast food favorite is probably anything from House Industries.
Okay.
They're fantastic. They're one of my inspirations. And really they have amazing stuff. So definitely look into both of those.
Okay. Yeah, I see Champion Gothic. That looks
It's
very
very rigid and it's very
yeah.
it's thin, and I use it quite a bit actually.
Yeah, it's versatile. I like that.
Yes.
Um yeah, it's a good choice as any. I was expecting something a little bit more out there, but I
See,
mean,
that's the whole thing. That's why I
yeah,
went with
yeah.
any if you look at House Gothic, there's a lot of character, but I go for practical first now. Something
Yeah,
that's going to put my message out there that's not going to deter from my message.
that's true. Yeah, you gave the smart answer and not the entertaining answer, so I can definitely tip my cap to that. But yeah, what is your spirit animal? One that best represents your personality. And I was kind of wanting to frame this question away, like if there was an animal logo that's famous, like which one would represent you? Like, but I guess that's kind of hard to think of. So, like, what would be your spirit animal?
Yeah, that That's a really good one because, like, I think that I think I would have come up with something like my first thing was like a turtle, and I was like, I'm slow, but I'm durable, and I'm sure, and it's like I live forever, and that type of thing. And I'm like, well, people will see me as slow or like a sloth or something. I don't need that.
Yeah.
And I think that we're trying to think about that. But if upon further inspection here, I would say an armadillo.
Okay.
I think that it's I'm a little bit elusive right now, and people know of me, but probably have never seen me.
Mhm.
And I definitely I've weathered a lot of things, and then the armor is definitely representative of
Yeah,
that.
you kind of took the good aspects from the turtle and made it not like old and boring. So it's like
That's
a
it.
cooler turtle. Yeah, I love
That's
that.
it. That
It's a
it's
good one.
exactly it.
It's a really good one. I like that. Clever. Clever. Um, so if you had to work with a dream client, but that client is a cartoon or a movie character, can't be a real person, who would they be and what would you be making for them?
Phenomenal. Okay. So I actually
I've
this
never
is
asked these questions before. I came up with these for you, so enjoy.
awesome. Awesome. I'm glad you did because I have creative answers for them.
Oh, let's go.
So there was a movie, it was a Steve Martin movie, I believe it was 1979, or in that area, and it was called The Jerk. And at the time, Steve Martin was working at a gas station, and it's a very famous scene where he's working at a gas station, and someone is literally trying to kill him with a rifle. Okay,
Uh-huh.
but he's so naive about it, and he's walking around. Well, this guy drives in and to get gas, and he's Steve Martin is like, yes sir, I'm gonna get your gas and everything. And this guy's glasses keep on falling down, and he goes, I can fix that for you. And then he goes in and fixes it for him, and it has a thing called the OptiGrab. And
Uh-huh.
he goes, hey, I do this kind of stuff, and I can if I sell this idea, I'll give you 50% of it. And Steve Martin's like, okay, whatever. And it turns out that this guy does it and makes $1 million, and whatever. So that's my dream client. I want somebody to walk into my life and see so much value in me that they find that I can make $1 million in this thing that I've been doing, and I didn't even know that I could do it. That's my
I
dream
love
client
that.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I like that. I'm looking at the picture of it right now. It's got like the little thing that pokes its
Yes, it's
nose.
the
Yeah.
OptiGrab, and there's actually a kind of a tragic thing that happens later in the movie about that he winds up losing his whole fortune because of it. I don't want that part, but I'm solving problems for people, and they're so happy that I can do that, and that's what I'm looking for.
Good. That's a great spin on that question. So I like that answer a lot, even though I haven't seen the movie. But I can see the validation for the answer. So I really can appreciate that. But man, yeah, that's all I had for today. Like I said, man, I can't thank you enough for your time, and I hope you feel like your time was valued. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I really look up to you, man, and like I said, I'm just on this journey of learning and making friends and partners, and I'm excited to see this reaction and stuff come out. So one of the things that I've just learned from this talk is how are the actions that I'm taking now orienting me towards my dream job, my Adobe, my MLB, um, minor league, anything like that. Like, what does that look like? Not just what is that for me, but what is that? What are the actions that I'm taking, and how am I getting there? And if I can elaborate on that really quickly, I think what I want right now and what my 5-year goal is to have an agency job that I work part time and for 20 hours a week or so, hybrid remotely, because I find I get a lot of energy out of working with the team, and having the rest of the time to grow the podcast, to grow my own freelance work, to build websites and brand identities for people I'm passionate about working with, like golf coaches and stuff like that. And then maybe 10, 15 years, my Adobe would be, I love that analogy, by the way, like my Adobe, like
Yeah.
that would be for you, is being able to travel and interview creatives and have the blog and podcast as a platform that funds itself and can fund the travel and we can do like big high production podcasts where I can get to, because I already take this thing so seriously, like, and that's where I think I'm keeping my pulse on the sense of the curiosity where it's leading me. Like I'm spending a lot of time doing this because I love it. I love the recording, the setting up, the making the guest experience as good as I can. And I hope you felt that today. And doing the research is a big part for me because I want people to come on to feel like their time is valued. And then the second part of that is learning the lessons that you have to offer and then sharing them with my audience, because I think when you learn the creative lessons and then going through the filter of rewatching the footage, taking notes, editing the clips, and writing the article, you learn the creative lessons about your career, and then getting to share them with others. So I really appreciate you today giving me that perspective on, what my Adobe looks like, and I can't wait to see, where the next chapter is for you, or how you keep being consistent on the content and teaching other people, because like when I go to your website, when I go to your social media page, I already get the sense that you're someone that's already doing that, if that makes sense. So, and I know it's always different in the eye of the beholder, but I can tell you as someone that reads your stuff, that reads everything that you put out, and um, follows you, that there's no need for imposter syndrome. And I know that's something that's going to be there relentlessly, but you're someone that practices what you preach, and I really look up to you, man. So
I appreciate that, and that's very flattering, and I appreciate that so much. But I want to tell you this. I'm actually more excited about your journey. You're so everything is fresh and new to you, and I sometimes wish I still had that. I'm sometimes very cynical about my path, and I question myself more than I probably should. But it's in these times that I know that I'm on the right path. If I'm able to help you facilitate what you're doing and go on your journey, and there's so much more ahead of you. Um, some good, some bad, but ultimately you'll be getting to where you need to be, and that's exciting for me to be a small part of that.
yeah, man, I really appreciate that. Like, you've been an inspiration, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for both of us, man. So, where can people find you and, learn all about you and stay up to date on your articles and all your content you put out?
Sure. You can look me up, Mondragon Design or Michael Mondragon on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram at Mondragon Design. I'm also on all the other social platforms, but I'm concentrating on those two currently. And I'm also building my YouTube channel and my learning platform currently. So look for stuff for that in the future, and I'll definitely be promoting that very shortly.
Yeah, and we're gonna get that out too. I'll be upfront. I don't have a huge network, but um, I'm gonna do everything I can to tell everyone I know, because I'm a fan. That's what we do with everyone that comes on the show. Is that if I'm a fan of you, then I'm gonna get you out there as best as I can. So yeah, man, I really
Appreciate it very
appreciate it, and
much,
we're gonna be.
and what I can do to support you as well.
Thank you, man. Thank you. You're kind of cutting out. You're kind of
Oh, my
cutting in and out a
pleasure.
little bit. Can you say that again?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, one sec.
Can you hear me?
No, I'm. Is it cutting out?
A little bit, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay,
One
cool.
sec.
There you go. You're back on now. You're back on
Okay.
now. Okay. Can you
Yeah, no,
say that last part?
sure. No, I appreciate all of your support. I'm looking forward to everything that we're going to be doing. And yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been a total pleasure.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, you like cut out there for a second, so I didn't mean to
Ah,
like make you repeat yourself, but you're
okay.
good. You're good. Like I said, man, we'll be in touch over the next couple of weeks. I'll keep you updated on. Like I said, we do the blog post, we do the YouTube video for the whole interview, and we'll do some social media posts. Like, you have a couple interesting things that I want to get out there as well. And yeah, man, I'll let you know. Like I said, we're gonna get your name out there as best as I can, and I look forward to sharing these lessons with everyone. That's the big deal. So thank
Thank
you
you
again
so
for your
much.
time. Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you. It's been a pleasure, and I'm so glad that you connected, and you're doing a lot of good stuff out there as well. So keep up your hard work. It shows.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you a lot, and we'll be in touch. All right.
Sounds good. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mike.